Good morning, squad. We are just awaiting the guilty plea of Rex Heuermann. I know it's likely not to be live streamed. However, there are a bunch of outlets on standby in the hopes that it will be, given what is happening today. So I'm monitoring lots of things, but in the meantime, I thought we could at least talk about it because this is a huge day. I don't know how many of you have followed the Gilgo Beach serial killings, the Lisk serial killer, the various names that apparently Rex Heuermann has gone by in all of these years as a true crimer, but I sure have. And this is a really important day for the victims' families and for justice. And there's really a lot going on with this case right now. So let me just give you a reminder of the who is Heuermann? What is this? Rex Heuermann is an architect from Long Island, um, from Massapequa Park, New York, who was arrested in July 2023 after a huge investigation that spanned literal decades into the unsolved Gilgo Beach serial killings. Investigators tied him to burner phones that were used to contact escorts shortly before several of the victims disappeared. Cell tower data has placed his devices near the areas that he was supposed to be making contact with these individuals. They've also used it to show his home and work patterns and where he would normally be to show his breaking his own patterns. Um, Prosecutors say that he was very, very careful to keep burner phone use and his personal phone use separate. But they eventually were able to link them up. I mean, he was out there for so many years. Like he eventually fucked up a few times. DNA, of course, very, very important. Um, Hair recovered from the burlap wrappings that many of his victims were wrapped in matched mitochondrial DNA to his family, unfortunately, his wife and daughter, which is considered to be secondary transfer. Then we also know how they initially did arrest him was a pizza crust that he discarded, um, was used to obtain a direct DNA comparison. Then there's the planning document. I don't know if you all remember that. It's been a while since we've talked about it, but it was on electronic devices that belonged to him. Prosecutors have described it as a detailed operational checklist for selecting, controlling, transporting, and disposing of his victims. It's horrifying, honestly. It also included reminders about avoiding forensic transfer and what to do with victims' belongings. Like he was like writing serial killer notes to self, which, holy shit, yikes. Let's see. We know that the victims were targeted mostly through escort ads and contacted through prepaid phones. Most victims were petite women. Many of them were working in sex work and making them vulnerable to disappearing without immediate large scale response. So, as usual, taking advantage of the vulnerability of sex workers, especially in the times that these killings were committed, considering the some of it was pre cell phone, and a lot of it was pre the gigantic digital footprint that we all have now. So there are now 8 victims believed that he will plead guilty to. Melissa Barthélemy, she was 24. She disappeared in July of 2009 after meeting a client in New York City. She was a sex worker. Family of Melissa actually received taunting calls from her phone, if you recall. Megan Waterman, she was 22 from Maine. She was last seen in June 2010, leaving a hotel for a client meeting. Amberlyn Costello, age 27, last seen September 2010, leaving her home after arranging a meeting. Maureen Brainerd Barnes, she was 25, disappeared July 2007 after traveling from Connecticut for escort work. Jessica Taylor, her remains were discovered, partial remains were discovered several years apart. Her case connected old Manorville evidence to Gilgo. Valerie Mack, previously unidentified for years as Jane Doe number 6, finally identified through forensic genealogy. Sandra Castilla, sorry. Her murder actually predates the Gilgo cluster, which indicates much earlier behavior as far as Rex Heuermann is concerned. I mean, honestly, I know he's going to plead to 8, but is that really all of them? I don't think it is. And last but not least, he has apparently now they have added Karen Vergata, recently added to the charges. She disappeared in 1996, and she was long unidentified before DNA genealogy established her identity. Um, he said he was going to go to trial all this time, but his defense team has fought really hard against the DNA evidence in this case, and they've lost all of the fight on that. And so I do think that's likely where this is coming from, that they know there's no winning this. And um, also, Heuermann's not in the best of health. He missed a hearing recently. He was walking with a crutch because he has something wrong with his foot. And his attorney at the time mentioned that he has um, multiple health problems. Um, I'm grateful for the families and for his family that they don't have to go through a trial that would take 6 months, maybe. It would be so long. Some other crazy things that are happening. There's a civil suit against Heuermann's wife and daughter that is pretty interesting. Hang on, let me um, get my notes up about that. I watched the press conference yesterday. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what the point of this is, but this is against Asa Ellerup and Rex Heuermann's wife and Victoria Heuermann. She goes by Newman now. His daughter. The plaintiff is Benjamin Torres. He's the son of Valerie Mack. He was about 6 when Valerie disappeared in 2000. This lawsuit was filed just barely, like yesterday. The lawsuit alleges that Heuermann caused Valerie Mack's wrongful death, torture, dismemberment, and concealment. Right. It also alleges Asa and Victoria knew of, concealed, deliberately ignored, or consciously avoided learning facts connected to Valerie's killing. I would love to know how they think they can prove that. The filings argue that they may have benefited financially afterward through media participation, so through the documentary. The complaint specifically points to proceeds from the Peacock documentary about the family. If you have not seen that, watch it. It is, wow, very interesting. The family may have received over $1 million tied to documentary rights, and Torres argues victim families should not see alleged killer family profits while still living with the harm. I mean, the thing that we know is that Heuermann was the sole provider in that family. And when he was arrested, it took everything from them. And they have publicly said on multiple occasions that they literally did the documentary to stay alive. This, I think this lawsuit is unlikely to go very far. There's multiple, there's tons of evidence that show that one of the things that Heuermann did is he murdered women while his family was on vacation. Asa would take Victoria and her brother, and they would go somewhere on a trip, and that's when the murders occurred. So they weren't even in the state at the time. They weren't even in the state at the time that Valerie Mack was killed. DNA tied to family hair, it does not mean participation. It's secondary transfer. I mean, Victoria is not that old. I mean, she was a tiny child when a lot of these murders occurred. Their attorney, of course, says the suit is baseless, and it's honestly, it's pretty cruel. I don't know. I don't understand how you can't see Victoria and Asa and the brother who has stepped completely out of this. I don't know how you cannot see them as victims of Rex Heuermann as well. I can. Of course, you know, civil claims against Heuermann are one thing, but civil claims against his family, I think it's unlikely to go anywhere. So I don't know. What do you think about the civil suits against the family? Do you think that they should be sued? Okay, just getting some details. People are lined up outside the courtroom with chairs, waiting to see if they can get in. There is currently no live stream. We could just always hope that the judge might make an exception on such an important day, but I think it's unlikely to happen. But I still felt like we should be here and mark this because this is an important moment. Yeah, Haley, I agree. Haley and Bethy, leave the family alone. I watched the Peacock documentary. Did any of you watch it? Both Asa and Victoria seem to be trauma victims themselves. Asa just can't quite let herself believe that she was married to the Gilgo Beach serial killer, I think. And that may just be a psychological protection for herself. Victoria was a child and obviously has quite a bit of trauma effect of her own, and most certainly did not participate or help in any way or know of what her father was doing. Yes, I agree, Haley, that Asa has come around more to like mentally understanding that it is him. But I think there's a big part of her that is just, it's so hard for her to let herself believe it. Can you imagine? And you can't tell me that he was a good husband and a good father. And they talk about good memories with him and stuff, but he's a terrifying human being. But I cannot imagine the psychological damage that it would do to a family to find out that dad's a serial killer. Massive, massive trauma. So they've now moved the time, of course, to 11 a.m. Eastern from 9 a.m. Man. Uh, why do they do this to me? I drag myself out of bed so early. Um, that's okay. I'll still keep the stream open just because I would like to be able to talk about it as soon as it happens and just mark it as a very important moment in justice. Yeah, it sounds like it's total chaos for people waiting to get into the courtroom to be able to witness what's happening. Also, Raymond Tierney, the attorney for the families, he is also the attorney that has filed the civil suit for the son of Valerie Mack, is going to have a press conference with the victims' families after the plea. It's just it's a wild moment in crime, to see the Lisk, if we're going to call him Lisk, we're going to call him Gilgo Beach, whatever we're going to call him, serial killer actually see justice. This is one of those cases that's been around for a really, really long time. Yes, the eighth victim is Karen Vergata, who was known for a really long time as Fire Island Jane Doe, has now been added to the list of who he is supposed to plead to today. Here's Miss Sandy, the true crime cat. She has made an entrance. So has Miss B behind me. They like it when I do it this way because then they can come and go as they want. It also means my dogs can bark though, and that's the definite downside of the whole situation. So I'm going to pop off from here for now, but I will pop back on as I have more updates. Even if we're not going to watch it, we are still going to mark it, be present for this, hold space for the victims' families and for Heuermann's family, honestly. So stick with me. I'll be back. Quick note of something absolutely darling. The Suffolk County DA's office has a service dog. His name is Tillman III, and he is in the courtroom to comfort the families of the victims. That is the first time I've ever heard of that. That is so cool. Have any of you ever heard of that before? Wow. Maybe Miss B can be our service cat for the day. She really wants to be, doesn't she? You believe how big she is? Remember when she was just a teeny little baby? She's ginormous now. All right. Well, I'll pop back off. I just wanted to tell you that because I thought that was very cool. Here's Tillman, the Suffolk County DA service dog. Tillman is on the left. Mega is on the right. Mega retired, and so Tillman took on the role as the service dog for the Suffolk County DA, and he has entered the courtroom, which I think is really quite incredible. I've never heard of a DA having a service dog before, but what a cool thing. Also, Gloria Allred, who is the attorney for or representative for families of the victims, has entered the courtroom. So things are happening quickly. I think we're going to be hearing actual updates from the hearing itself very shortly. All right, friends. So as we speak, Rex Heuermann is allocuting. He is agreeing that he did, in fact, kill each victim by name, and he is stating to the judge how he murdered them, which we know, strangulation. This is a pretty historic day for this case that has literally been around for decades and so poorly handled for so very long. And once this team got hold of it, things got a whole lot better for the victims. I just wish that it had all happened a little sooner so that maybe not so many women had to die. Agreed, Van Life. Sex workers do need to have a safe place to operate. Prostitution is never going away. And it makes me very happy that we've got some justice for these sex workers, because so many murdered sex workers' deaths go unpunished, sometimes even unidentified, which I think will always be a shame of our legal system, and is a reason why, one of many, that I got into true crime and want to speak up about true crime, because I want everyone's murder to be treated equally. I want every defendant to be treated equally. I want our system to work for everyone. We know it doesn't. We absolutely know it doesn't. But today is a big step. So he has pleaded guilty now to all 7 murders that he was charged with, and also with Karen Vergata. So he was not charged with Karen Vergata's murder, but he did agree to plead to it today. A part of the plea deal is that he cannot be charged for Karen Vergata later. He's facing about 200 years in prison right now, and so I don't know why there would be any purpose in that. Yes, I know about the Robert Picton case in Canada. And yeah, over 50 sex workers, probably more. We'll never know for sure how many. But he has now admitted to killing Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Jessica Taylor, Valerie Mack, Sandra Castillo, Karen Vergata, Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, and Amber Castillo. I hope that's closure for families. He has admitted to her murder. He did admit to Karen Vergata's murder. He wasn't charged with it, but he agreed to admit to it as part of the plea deal. I think it was probably just a move on the prosecution's part to get him to plead at this point. Yeah. And let's see. Yes, you are right, April. They can prove that he committed these murders while his wife was gone. She would take the children on vacation. He just always stayed home to work, guys. And what he was actually doing was murdering people. I know. I don't understand attacking his family. I really don't. First of all, his daughter was a literal child during these things. Have you watched the Peacock documentary? I think that there's a lot in that documentary when you listen to Asa speak that tells you quite a bit about her intellectual functioning. I also, my impression of her was that she was just heavily focused on her kids, and he was kind of in the background paying the bills. And it's very possible that she didn't want to know. Maybe she just thought he had a lot of affairs and used a lot of prostitutes. Not necessarily that she knew he was out murdering. Yes, in denial. And she said even in the documentary that she would need to hear him say it for her to be able to believe that he actually did these things. So she's obviously getting that in court right now. The I'm I'm of two minds on the family doing the Peacock documentary. I I don't love the profiting off from this, but I also understand that he was the sole breadwinner. They lost everything when he was arrested. They have been through absolute hell. They are obviously folks that struggle, have a lot of challenges um, in their lives, and I don't know how they would have survived had they not done the uh, the documentary. So his family is in court. His wife and daughter. Son has fully stepped away. Wants nothing to do with any of it. Right? They are victims themselves. I do believe that. Um, could Asa have done something? I don't know, but I did really have some red flags around her intellectual functioning watching the Peacock documentary that made me feel like she may just not have fully understood. And if he was doing these things, he did the remodels on the house, right? Of course, and that was part of it to cover up anything that may have happened in the home. Right. I think you're right, Goldilocks, that he did pick her. He did pick her. And what she needed is she needed someone who paid the bills. She needed someone who provided the lifestyle for her and her children. And she was happy with that. She talked all about all of the trips and fun things that she would take her kids to do. And like that was the benefit to her in this marriage was that she got to do lots of fun things with her children. The daughter worked in his architecture firm. Is it still in business? I don't know. I'll have to look it up. Right. The son has some special needs, and this has just been way too much for him. Right. He did. He looked for somebody who had already had a really challenged life, who he knew he could manipulate. Cherish says, my mother lived and died by the thought process of, if we don't acknowledge it, it isn't happening. She looked over my stepfather's affair she overlooked your stepfather's affairs for years. I could see Asa being that way. Me too. Honestly, watching the documentary on Peacock really helped me as a social worker and as a true crimer to understand her and where she was coming from in a different way. And the daughter, she was a child when these things were happening. Like, it's weird to me, like the civil suit that names both of them. What? I just don't get it. And you see so often offenders' families just being destroyed by something like this. And there's no empathy for them. And I do have empathy for them. I do. I don't know if the documentary was the right thing to do. But then I've never been in this situation. And it was pretty clear to me in the documentary that Asa didn't really have the ability to support herself. And she needed something to keep her going. Goldilocks, right. And then hunted down other broken women. Monster doesn't even cover what he is. No, I mean, he is a psychopath on steroids. And I imagine that he will be one of those serial killers that over the years we will see other deaths attributed. I doubt they charge him or try him for anything else at this point. The victim should have the right to any of Rex's fair portion of assets. Absolutely. Suing Rex, I get. Suing his wife and his daughter, I don't know. But his assets, yeah, I mean, I agree. And I know, there's already a case filed. There's going to be some attempt on that to recoup something. I don't even know what that will be at this point, but that's going to be in the courts for a long time, especially with the guilty plea. But I'm really disappointed in the New York state courts that they are, and I know they don't stream. I get that. But this is not just your average murder trial, right? This is not your average murderer pleading guilty. This is a serial killer who has had a huge impact on this community for 30 years. People should be able to hear him say he did it, I think. I think it's really unfortunate because the things that he did wreaked so much havoc and created so much fear as these bodies over time were being discovered, knowing, I mean, how long have you as a true crimer been following either the Lisk, Long Island serial killer, or Gilgo Beach? Right. The public absolutely has a right, especially in Long Island and New York. But these cases have been being followed for literal decades. And although I am very grateful that they are now solved, I really wish that we had been able to see that live. Okay, his sentencing is set for June 17th. The recommended sentence is 3 life sentences plus 25 years times 4. That's what the DA has asked for. Right, I agree. They should have allowed one camera to film for later release. Maybe they did. I can't confirm that they did or didn't, but right, Goldilocks, Years and Years list was one of my first podcast addictions. Right, see, me too. And so I'm very invested in this story. Also, just because of the incredibly vulnerable people that he killed, and watching all the documentaries with the victims' families about how much they have been through, how much pain they have been through all these years, and all of the corruption that has happened with the police over the years that slowed this investigation. Very concerning. Yes, they did have live feeds to stream into 2 overflow courtrooms. Yes, and there will be an audio file. That's a good point, and someone will FOIA that. Yeah, that'll be out there pretty soon. But honestly, if anybody should have to stand up on national TV and say what they did, it's Rex Heuermann. But you're right, Cherish. That fucker will never breathe air as a free man again, and that is great. Does the guilty plea waive the right to appeal? I did not see documentation of that anywhere. So I doubt it. But we won't know for sure on that anyway until the sentencing, because this is all a recommendation the judge has to take into context. Right, and there may be answers at 2 p.m. Eastern, which is noon Mountain. There will be a press conference with the DA. I'm planning to stream it here so that we can watch it and discuss it if y'all want to, because I'm very curious to. Yes, thank you. Please follow. Always appreciated. The DA is likely going to tell us a lot of stuff we didn't hear from court. He may also say some things that we didn't know until now that he can reveal now that the guilty plea is in. get a picture to show of him in court. He still has the dumbest haircut I've ever seen. Maybe somebody did that because they know who he is and they know what he did. Yeah, DA Tierney is awesome. He's done a fantastic job. It's been very nice to see investigation in this case from real serious court officers and police, because there have been some real unserious ones leading up to this. Yeah, I agree with all of you who say there are more victims. I think there probably are. Yes, I know. Sweet relief. We're on verdict watch for the Hawaii trial. I haven't streamed that, but I have watched a good share of it. They'll be back in at 1 Mountain because Hawaii time. So yeah, we'll have press conference before that. I've said this before, but my dad was a barber for 40 years. And every time I see Rex Heuermann and his stupid haircut, all I can do is laugh. My dad would have laughed his ass off over that haircut. I'll get you a picture here in a sec so you can see it. Yeah, the Hawaii trial has been quite something. He's a real jackass, that guy. Sorry, I was just going to grab a... Oh boy. Dang it. Trying to grab the picture from today. Yeah, he did. You're right. Y'all are commenting on the defense attorney, the main defense attorney in the Hawaii trial. And yeah, he was a dick. But you're right. He's just doing his job, defending his client. My father-in-law would always say a bad haircut is only 2 weeks long. Yes, as long as you then go to someone who doesn't just continue to do it to you. And Heuermann seems to be just continuing to get the same haircut, which does crack me up quite a bit. One thing we know is that Heuermann is not in the greatest of health, which makes me wonder if that's one of the reasons for this plea. I think there are multiple reasons. And, I mean, he said it himself that this is in his best interest. That's why he's doing it. He literally told the judge that. And yeah, it's true. And that's exactly what Heuermann will do, is what's in his best interest. He's a psychopath. He doesn't have the ability to do something that's in the best interest of anyone but him. Chair says she's not sure if the DA proved his case in the Hawaii trial. I think he did. I think that he did. I think those witnesses and what they saw, had I been on that jury, that would have sealed it for me. Yes, Rosanna, me too. I'm so grateful that there's not a trial for Rex Heuermann. Can you imagine what that would put the families through in this situation? Like, Seriously, it's just way too much. And the jury, my God, what it would do to the jury. And frankly, the time and money that it would take, also insane. There we go. Here's Heuermann in court today with his, shall we call it a berries and cream haircut? Reminds me a little bit of that. Have you seen that skit on TikTok? The I'm just a boy who likes berries and cream. Oh, good. Thank you, Sweet Relief. He can't appeal with these pleas. Okay, that's good to know. We'll see that. Here's the problem. Even when they agree that they can't appeal, it only kind of means they can't. They can still try. Right? Yeah, the bald guy has a better haircut than Heuermann, doesn't he? They can still try and potentially could determine that like the deal itself wasn't good and that he could, but yeah, I mean, it's less likely to. He's less likely to be able to appeal if it's included in the plea, but it's not 100% guarantee either. Well, let me see if we have any new updates here. What a day. What a historical day. If you've been a long time true crimer, this is a historical day. Always my hope is that we're working toward being able to catch these serial killers faster before they kill so many people, that we're getting better at it. And I don't know if that's true or not. What do you guys think? Do you think we're getting better at it? Do you think that the presser has not happened yet? Waiting on that. Yeah, they did let him wear a suit. Last time he'll get to, probably. Yes, I know. The judge did ask if he understands. Yeah, the judge did ask him all those things. The presser is at 2 p.m. Eastern. Yes, he did. Karen Vergata, he pled guilty to Karen Vergata, even though he was not charged. That was part of the deal today. He will not be charged. They agreed that he will not be charged with Karen Vergata, but he did allocute to her murder. Here's an even better shot of that terrible haircut. What is happening? Yes, they did the same with Brian Koberger. It's true. But they can still argue that was somehow unfair at the time, and it is possible. It doesn't mean he will, but it's never 100% guarantee with those, in agreements, in plea deals, that they can't appeal, because they do still have constitutional rights, and you can't take those away. Yeah, it does look like a bowl cut, but why does it all turn under like that? Right? Cherish, a person is fucked up if they think that haircut works for them. Agreed. Yeah, he is a huge man. Right. This look pisses me off. Me too, Goldilocks. When I saw this picture, I'm like, oh, I have to show you this, because look at that. He's just almost smiling. Yes, even his hair hates him. That is agreed. Yes. Well, rumors that he's been writing letters with the happy face killer, and that's where the thing about butter came from, wanting to know if when he gets into prison, if he'll get butter. I mean, you're a psychopath if biggest concern is getting butter in prison. Yeah, the look on his face, I know. Yes. Yeah, they had so much evidence against him, and they fought and fought on the DNA, and the defense lost everything on the DNA. And I think that's probably where they went, okay, it's time to plead. I will be forever grateful that we did not have to witness this trial, nor did we have to witness Brian Koberger's trial. As an Idaho true crime podcaster, particularly, that was going to be brutal. Good one, Goldilocks. Like Baby Huey and Lord Farquaad had a baby. Yes, a lot like that. Asa Ellerup made a statement outside the courtroom. My thoughts and prayers are with the victims and their families. Their loss is immeasurable, and the focus should be on them in this time and moment. I ask that you give some privacy to my family as they navigate through this very difficult time. She didn't take any questions. Well, she can't delude herself anymore that Rex didn't do this. I don't know. I can't imagine the psychological damage done just to his family, knowing that they lived with him for all that time. Oh, you're talking about Shannon. The one victim who ran to a neighbor's home, didn't she say there were others? She said, they're after me. Yeah. But remember, she was at that doctor's house who is sus as hell. Yeah, I don't think we've ever fully understood that 911 call. I can't imagine. Right. Well, she had been drugged, Shannon Gilbert. Right. And she had been drugged by that doctor, the house, that creep that she went to his house. And then ran from. Right. Some people think she was having a psychotic break. She also had been. Right. And her driver left her. Her driver was supposed to be there to help her and wasn't. I don't know. Her story is so sad. Right. Right. The doctor is free. I know. But I have always felt like, what the fuck was up with that doctor? Something. Well, the thing is, not all of the Lisk cases have been attributed to Rex Heuermann. And you got to remember that there were some really shady things going on with law enforcement in that area at that time. And I have definitely questioned whether or not there were other people also killing and dumping bodies there at that time. Here's Asa giving her statement back, and her attorney, and then behind her attorney is Victoria. Honestly, Victoria breaks my heart. what she's been through is absolutely horrible. Yes, Mary Gilbert, Shannon's mom, is an absolute hero because she has never stopped fighting for justice for Shannon and for all of these other victims. So thanks for being with me today, guys. I know this is kind of an unusual one where we didn't get to actually watch it, but I do really hope um, that today is something for the victims' families. I really hope that there's some sense of justice for them today. And I felt like we needed to mark this with them because this is an important day. All right, I'm going to jump off. I will pop back on if I learn anything new. And if not, then I'll be back here at 2 p.m. Eastern, noon Mountain for the DA's presser. All righty. Presser is getting ready to start. So I'm hoping we're going to get some answers to questions today from him. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of the good job, us, way to go, woo, we did it kind of stuff. But I hope we also get some answers that we want to know. Are they still investigating him in other murders? Do they really think that he actually stopped in 2010? Are they investigating in other areas of the country where he's been known to be? Are there still tips coming in from people who had interaction from him? Like, there's a lot of stuff that I think it would be worth knowing. Also, maybe any evidence that they haven't put out into the world that they had on him that they now don't need to keep secret. I think those are all things that are very useful for us to know. So I'm looking forward to this. I know there have been a lot of other press conferences, other people talking and stuff prior to this, but I think that hearing from the DA on the case is really, really valuable, powerful stuff. Right. Is his DNA in CODIS or do they have to do that now? All of that stuff. Like, what do or don't we know yet? And of course, the victims' families are here. And I'm sure that they're going to have things to say as well. So, right. I mean, do we really think he stopped in 2010? He wasn't arrested until 2023. So, right. And Goldilocks says, and I don't think 93 was the first one. May not be. May just be the first one that we know of at this point. So, very curious about all of that. Also, just happy that the victims finally get to speak about their family member, get some of their own closure.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, one more voice
He's 62.
test. Opportunity for one more voice test. At this point in time, all cell phones on silent, please, and or do not disturb. Any other wireless devices that alert, please turn them off or silence them appropriately. So this will be the last voice check before we begin. Does anybody have any issues or need anything? Thank you very much.
He would have been 30 in 93. So, Right? What I think you're right, Cherish. What crimes did he commit before 93? You don't just become a serial killer at age 30. He'd been doing other things. Right? It's true. He could have killed for the first time in his teens. Right. His earliest victim could be in the 70s. That is true. Tall Red said one of the former detectives was saying his DNA should hit everywhere by the end of the month. It's just paperwork processing at this point. Good. That's what I figured. Once someone's convicted, like,
Yeah, that's why I'm smiling.
Hi, guys.
DNA goes in CODIS at conviction.
There's no. You all set? I'll take that as a yes. Okay, good afternoon. Thanks everyone for coming. This defendant walked among us, play acting as a normal suburban dad, when in reality, all along, he was obsessively targeting innocent women for death. He identified these women, lured them into Nassau County, murdered them, and left their bodies in Suffolk County. He thought that by killing them, he could silence them forever and get away with murder. But he was wrong, because it was these victims, these women, who refused to stay silent. First, that silence was broken by the victims' families, who advocated for their loved ones and agitated for justice. Then the noise grew louder through the ensuing investigation and examination of the evidence that the defendant left at or around the crime scenes, as well as on the bodies of the women themselves, that further told the stories of these victims and what had actually happened to them. It was this evidence that ultimately was put together by the task force that proved to be the defendant's undoing and led to the pleas of guilt in today's court proceeding. And it is in this way that these murders were solved. And while we in law enforcement, as well as our Suffolk County citizens, mourn the loss of these victims, we are also grateful to them and to their families, because without them, this defendant would have never been brought to justice and would still be walking amongst us. And he would still be portraying himself as that same harmless father next door, instead of what he is, a convicted murderer. Ultimately, this case is really about these victims and their stories. It is not about this defendant. And I speak for everyone in law enforcement, and when I say we are honored and thankful for being able to have played a small role in obtaining a small measure of justice for these families. For decades, this case stood out as a painful scar on the face of Suffolk County law enforcement, Suffolk County government, the citizens of Suffolk County, and the victims' families as well. However, with the defendant's pleas of guilt today, it means that for the first time since the deaths of these women, we can turn to all of these same people and say, Rex Heuermann will be held responsible for the 1993 murder of Sandra Castilla, the 1996 murder of Karen Vergata, the 2000 murder of Valerie Mack, the 2003 murder of Jessica Taylor, the 2007 murder of Maureen Brainerd Barnes, the 2009 murder of Melissa Bartholomew, the June 2009 murder of Megan Waterman, and the September 2010 murder of Ms. Costello. Despite this tragedy, there's a lot of different emotions, and I guess the word for today despite the tragedy, despite all those emotions, is thankfulness. We are thankful. We have a lot to be thankful for, despite these emotions. First and foremost, we are thankful for the victims and the victims' families who told their stories, their loved ones' stories, and defended their loved ones' legacies. Without them, we would have never truly gotten to know those victims. My start in this case occurred before I took office. A homicide detective with the Suffolk County PD, Pat Portella, gave my phone number to Melissa and Amanda. Melissa is, of course, Maureen Brainerd Barnes' sister, and Amanda is Melissa Barthelomew's sister. And they spoke with me. We had a really good phone conversation. And during that phone conversation, I heard the pain and frustration in their voices. They wanted answers. They wanted closure. I told them that we were going to do things differently. It was going to be a new manner of doing things. We were going to form a task force, and we were going to bring all of the talents of all these people standing here to bear. And we were going to work together. We were going to not use this case as a political football to be kicked into the news stream on slow days or whenever it suited the political leader's purpose. We were going to be quiet. We were going to pretend as though it was business as usual in Suffolk County. And the reason why we were going to do that was because we knew what we were doing. We were playing to an audience of one. And that one person, of course, was the murderer. We wanted to lure that individual into a false sense of security. We wanted him to think he got away with this. And that was exactly what we did. And the reason why we wanted to do that is because when we solved this case and we had those arrest warrants and executed those search warrants, we wanted more evidence, and that's exactly what we got. So we were thankful for that. We were thankful we were able to bring this case to a close, but our inspiration was these victims and their families. But those families were so much more to us. Through them, we truly got to know these victims. When we started, the victims were nothing but names on a blotter, black and white, writing on investigative reports. But once we spoke to the victims, they provided us with the color of these women, and we got to know them as the wonderful mothers, sisters, friends, and daughters that they were. And that inspired us even more to close this case, to come to a resolution. So again, first and foremost, we are thankful for those families. And I just want to individually, mention all of the families. The Brainerd Barnes family, I already spoke with Melissa, but I want to thank Melissa and her husband, Chris, and their children, Marie, who is Maureen's mom, Nicolette and Dylan, who are Maureen's two children. We want to thank them for their support, not only of Maureen, but for our investigation as well. And we want to say, on behalf of Suffolk County, we're sorry. The Bartholomew family, Amanda, who's Melissa's sister, Lynn, her mom, and Jeff, Lynn's partner. We want to thank them as well. When this case started, it started with the grand. Well, it didn't start, but the charging started with the grand jury, and Amanda, Lynn, and Melissa came down and helped us with the grand jury. And I remember when Lynn came in, it was about 2-day proceeding, and when Lynn first walked in, she appeared a certain way, and by the end of that second day, she looked completely different. You could see that having forced her to relive this, you could see the sadness in her face and in her eyes, and we're sorry for that. But without their cooperation, we wouldn't be here today. So to Amanda, Lynn, Jeff, and everyone in the Bartholomew family, we want to say thank you, and we want to say we're sorry. To the Waterman family, we have Megan's aunt, Liz, and we have her daughter, Lily. We want to thank them. We didn't get to know them until after the indictment, but again, The way that they stood by Megan and the way they supported us, we want to say to them, thank you, and we're sorry. To Amber Costello and her family, we again, specifically Amber's sister Kim, we want to say thank you, and again, thank you for the support, and again, we're sorry for the loss of Amber. Valerie Mack, we met shortly before the indictment. We met Ed and Joanne Mack. Ed and Joanne Mack were foster parents and then the adopted parents of Valerie, and they gave Valerie the only home, the only happy home she ever knew, and really the only support she probably ever knew in her life. Meeting with them, they're incredibly special people. They're heroes. We also got to know Valerie's sister Angela and her son Aaron. Again, equally wonderful people. So to them, we want to say thank you, and we're sorry. Jessica Taylor, we got to know Jessica's mom, Liz, after the indictment. Prior to the indictment, we got to know Jessica's cousin, Jasmine. And right after the initial indictment of the first 3 victims, Jasmine came to us on behalf of Liz and said, please help us. Please find out what happened to Jessica. And at that time, we didn't have enough. And we said, look, we're going to work and we're going to try to get there. And we're going to work as hard as we can. Please trust us. And, Jasmine, on behalf of Liz, said they would do just that. So to Jasmine and Liz, I want to say thank you. And again, we're sorry. To the Vergata family, Karen Vergata, we recently went, I did, I know members of the Suffolk County PD had already spoken to the family, but my team recently went and we saw Eric and Gary, who were Karen's sons. Gary's not here today, but we got to meet Gary, and I know Gary's watching, so we want to say hello to Gary. Eric's here. We want to thank Eric. And again, we want to thank you and tell them how much we admire them for supporting their mom and for supporting us. And again, we want to say we're sorry. On behalf of all of Suffolk County, we're sorry for Karen's passing. The Castilla family, Cassandra Castilla. We had the opportunity shortly before the indictment to meet with Ariel, who's the husband of Ruth, and Ruth is Sandra's sister. Again, wonderful people who really stood by and supported Sandra. So we want to thank them for that. We want to thank them for their support of our investigation. And on behalf of Suffolk County, we want to tell them we're sorry. We're sorry. So that's the family. Again, they inspired us. They're the reason why we do what we do. Today was a very special day for us in law enforcement. Because it gave us the opportunity to turn to these victims and their families and say, listen, we told you we were going to work really hard. We told you we were going to do everything we can to bring closure to you. And that's why we work in law enforcement. And, we were able to do that to a small measure today. So we're happy for that. And again, so thankful for them. In addition to our victims' families, we have our law enforcement family. And this case was, brought home by a task force that brought to bear the talents of a number of really great investigators from a lot of really great agencies. And again, so thankful to be able to have worked with so many talented people. It's not really, some people will say, well, this person solved Gilgo or that person solved Gilgo. That's not it at all. It was so many different pieces, so from so many different people, starting back in 1993 and culminating all the way through 2021. So again, and really beyond actually. So again, so thankful for the great work. First and foremost, I have to thank my chief investigator, Rich Zacharies. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've had the benefit of working with truly the best investigators in the country and in the world. Rich is the finest investigator I've ever worked for and worked with. I do sometimes feel as though I work for him. But he was the architect of our grand jury. He put together our grand jury. And I think there's, whether it's an attorney or an investigator, I think there are very few people who could have done that logistically. And so to Rich, I want to say thank you. To our detective investigators, our analysts, again, all great. And I'm gonna mention a lot of people, and it's gonna, because it's not exciting to mention a lot of people, but they deserve mention. So I'm gonna mention them. We're gonna go through everyone, but not everyone, but a lot of people. We're gonna talk about our phone experts, Justin Doolittle and John Primiano. Unbelievable work in this case and so many others. Our analysts, Kaylee Homer, Aaron Hansen, unbelievable work combing through this evidence, this miles of evidence. And that's just to name a few. They're indicative of so many more. Our law enforcement partners, we had our DA people, our PD, our FBI, our New York State Police, our Suffolk County Sheriff's Office, our core people, Rory Forrestall, a DI. I hired Rory. He was supposed to come in and help us with our child abuse section, but he got waylaid in here, and he worked like heck for us and did a great job. We're so thankful for Rory. For Suffolk County PD, our homicide guys who are still with the task force today, Chris Calvaca and Scott Aquilina, great individuals, great investigators. Thank you so much, Chris, Scott. Yeah, Jimmy Watson, who worked with us, no longer with us. He's in Nassau. FBI agent Craig Mateo, special agent Craig Mateo. Everybody's young, I guess, compared to me, but I see him as a young guy, really talented agent, really great guy, really, really helpful. Investigator Tiffany Attai with the state police. Again, along with Rory, Aaron, and Kaylee, really, plunged into the evidence in this case and really, really helped us out. She was also the one who did the infamous avalanche search. So we want to thank Tiffany for all of the work and all the work that they all did. We have a number of retired task force and former law enforcement officers with us today. We invited them and saw John Santoro, I saw Donna Giordano, Pat Albergo, just to name a few. And we wanted to invite those retired members because, again, there was a lot of talk about this case, a lot of talk about, no one cared about the women, who were murdered in this case. That nothing could be further from the truth. I'll talk about Pat Alberga. He worked Jessica Taylor's case. He retired when we had brought enough evidence to bring that case together. We called Pat, and he came to help us testify. Actually, he and Donna Giordano testified for us. But when Pat Albergo, who's retired, came in, he sort of walked through the door like a kid, like a little kid walking down the stairs during Christmas. And he's like, "Why am I here?" And I'm like, "Because we're going to charge this case." He was thrilled. And that attitude is indicative of every single one of all these agencies. So grateful to work with all of these people, both past and present. Our ADAs, Nick Santamartino, Andrew Lee, Michelle Haddad, Larry Opizo, God help them, right? They get to know what I'm really like. And so they were with us right from the very beginning, through the grand jury and through today. Great job by them. I want to thank them. My chief assistant, Alan Bodie, he really, along with Rich and we really thought a lot about how we were going to go forward with this case and planned a lot of things, from the grand jury. And he was really helpful with that. And also, he ran the office while I was running around pretending to be a lawyer. Our discovery expediters, our analysts, our paralegals, everyone. And that's just us. So now, we come to the Suffolk County PD, and, I'll talk a lot about Suffolk County PD was, with us every step of the way. Our police commissioner Catalina, our chief of department, Bill Dougherty, our chief of detective, Sean Barron, a whole host of other people are with us today. We have our Suffolk County Sheriff, Errol Toulon with us, as well as Undersheriff Kevin Heavey, as well as Undersheriff John Becker. We really want to thank those two agencies. We want to thank Errol Toulon, and we want to thank Police Commissioner Catalina. They're two phenomenal partners. I can say this about Suffolk County and Suffolk County citizens when it comes to Police Commissioner Catalina and Sheriff Toulon. You are all in wonderful company. In addition, with regard to our Sheriff's Department, they provided logistics and traffic and sex trafficking related intel throughout our interviews, helped us to identify a lot of potential interviews of inmates and other people who had been sex trafficked. So we want to thank Suffolk County Sheriff for that. With regard, we also have the FBI here. We have Special Agent in Charge, Michael Rappa, who's of the FBI New York Criminal Division. So Special Agent in Charge Rappa is in charge of the criminal division of the FBI in New York State. We want to thank Michael for coming in. We want to thank Supervisory Senior Resident Agent Don Osbacher, who's been with us from the very beginning. We want to thank them for lending us their expertise, and more importantly, their people. The cell phone analysis that we all heard about, that was done by the CAST, or cellular. The FBI CAST stands for Cellular Analysis Survey Team, and specifically Special Agents Eric Perry and Mike Sabrick. Those areas of interest. In Manhattan and in Massapequa Park. That was developed because in 2011, Eric Perry drove with equipment through every single neighborhood and extensively mapped the cell phone coverage in those areas, and allowed us with special to develop these areas of interest. That had to be done in 2011. The landscape changed, the cell sites changed, after Superstorm Sandy, the geography changed. So, we went back to 2011, and that work that Eric did, and just phenomenal. So we want to thank the FBI. We want to thank Eric Perry and Mike Sabrick. They both created maps for us to use in the grand jury. They testified in the grand jury, as well as John Primiano from my office with the help of Justin Doolittle, and just great work. With regard to forensics in this case, I think I'd said earlier that IgG, investigative genetic genealogy, did not play a role in this case. I was wrong. I had forgotten that IgG was used to identify victim Valerie Mack prior to my involvement in the case. So I want to thank the FBI and Lori Giordano for that. They also, with us, helped to identify Karen Vergata. So again, thank you. FBI, they provided surveillance of the defendant, both in the city and on Long Island, and their surveillance team. I was nervous. I had never met these guys. I had worked with them as a federal prosecutor, but that was a high risk, high reward thing. If they get made, everything comes down. If they get detected, but they weren't detected. Not only did they follow the defendant, but they recovered the abandonment samples. So we want to thank them. Suffolk County PD, they recovered DNA from the defendant's house. We want to thank the homicide squad for that. And again, working together, we were able to really develop that DNA evidence. So we want to thank them. We provided, the FBI provided a searchable account, digitalized this entire file for us. And we want to thank the FBI for that. New York State Police. Today we have Major Chris Casal, who's the troop commander of Troop L. We have Captain Chris Jean, who works in Troop L as well. Again, they provided Tiffany Atai to our task force, who was integral to our success. They provided assistance to search warrants, of all the search warrants with regard to this case and all the various locations. They were on the scene with our Suffolk County Police Department gathering evidence. They transported evidence from the house to Suffolk County property, along again with Suffolk County PD. The avalanche truck They transported it from South Carolina to our lab. There was a Ram Charger from Pennsylvania that was associated with the Sandra Castilla case. State troopers took that from Pennsylvania, brought it to our lab. We were able to develop evidence linking that truck to the murder of Karen Vergata. We want to thank them. They provided us with K-9 units along with the NYPD, Suffolk County PD. I want to thank all of those agencies. I want to thank Nassau for helping us with the search warrant. I want to thank Nassau County DA's office for helping us with the prosecution of the weapons case. Our Suffolk County Crime Lab, we want to thank them. Tremendous work. I particularly, is Clyde here? Where's Clyde? Clyde, raise your hand. Where's Clyde? All right, Clyde's all the way in the back as usual, hiding. So Clyde was the hair analyst in this case. He collected hairs from all the victims in this case, save for Jessica Taylor. And he pushed the PD and he pushed our office to send certain hairs out for mitochondrial and then later nuclear DNA testing. And when we started this case, he was working with Nick Santomartino in my office, and he was recalling with great specificity certain hairs of interest that he thought were really going to bear fruit. And I was talking to Nick, and I was saying, does this guy really, like, is he really, like, was he this meticulous? Is he this sure? And so Nick said, sit down with him, sit down with Clyde. And we sat down with Clyde, and, to go to a crime scene, in the 2000s and not have the capability to get nuclear DNA, but yet to be so precise and exact in gathering evidence, cataloging the evidence, safeguarding the evidence, and then being able to advocate for its use. Without Clyde, we probably wouldn't have gotten that evidence. So, Clyde's retired now, but we really want to thank Clyde. Bob Jenna, he collected hairs on the Castilla case. He recovered 2 hair. He was the former chief of Suffolk County Crime Lab. He's retired. He collected 2 hairs on Sandra Castilla. Did a great job, similar to Clyde. Don Doler, the former chief, he was the chief of the lab when we started this. Great job. We want to thank him. Connie Dinkle is the current chief of the lab, and she did a great job. Continues to do a great job. We want to thank them. Bob Bauman, Helen Wong, Liz Sepulveda, Kerry Anito, Craig Hamer. All of these forensic scientists did a fantastic job, and we want to thank them. Again, they were in the house with our law enforcement partners, gathering this evidence meticulously, precisely, and without, this. I was thinking about this. This isn't a cast of hundreds. When you look at when you bring all this together, it's a cast of thousands. So we want to thank all of those individuals. Office of Chief Medical Examiner, City of New York, Brad Adams, Mark Desire, and Neha Desai. Brad Adams was the anthropologist. He identified the Gilgo 4 he was the one who urged investigators to go back after the discovery of Melissa Barthelemy, which resulted in the discovery of the 3 other victims known as the Gilgo 4. Mark Desire is the assistant director of biology of the lab. He was our liaison. He made all of his people available to us. Ms. Desai, she testified for us in the grand jury. Her DNA analysis led to the identification of the Gilgo Beach 4. Again, she testified in the grand jury. A fantastic job. Our outside experts, mitotyping technologies, Gloria Dimmick and Jenna Manges. Gloria testified for us in the grand jury. Fantastic scientist, fantastic person. Astria Forensic, Dr. Ed Green, Dr. Christina Valencia, Kelly Harkins Kincaid. Those scientists with Astria are at the very top of their field, and they did something revolutionary in this case, and they've set the bar high going forward, and we're going to be able to utilize this technology going forward to solve a great many cases. So we want to thank Astrea Forensics, and I want to tell you, if you think you're smart, you should spend a week with Dr. Green. and then suddenly you realize maybe you're not as smart as you think you are. At least that's the sense I got after spending time with all those great scientists. NYPD, again, they helped us with the cadaver search in April of 2025. We had individuals from their TARU unit testify in the grand jury with regard to phone calls made by the defendant. They helped us to attain records, missing person records involving in this case, spanning back years and years. Again, at a drop of a hat, even though it wasn't their case, they came in and helped us. Scarborough Police Department, with regard to Megan Waterman, the Megan Waterman case came in as a missing person case, and it went across the desk of a detective, Don Blatchford, who's here with us today. And Don, gathered the evidence and really did everything he could to try to locate Megan. And when the trail took him to Suffolk County, he didn't stop. He continued to help us in our investigation. He brought the Waterman family to Long Island for interviews and for court proceedings. He testified in the grand jury, and he's had a long, illustrious career in Maine. He's going to retire, but he held off his retirement to see this case through. And again, I talked about the Suffolk County PD guys who cared about these victims. Don Blatchford is another individual who cares about these victims, like all of the people in law enforcement. So we want to thank them. United States Secret Service, with the massive digital evidence in this case and their forensic science division, all of the massive amount of digital evidence, they helped us process it. We had their forensic science division, we recovered a Bounty paper towel off of the crime scene of Megan Waterman. They processed that and they compared that to the same Bounty towel that we recovered in the home of the defendant. They matched, and this was a memento that we argued the defendant kept. Would have been a key piece of evidence. So we want to thank the Secret Service for that. The telephone carriers, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, Nextel, and AT&T. Again, phone records spanning back to 1993. We've got to get those records in evidence. Again, Rich Zachary's was integral in this, but they went above and beyond they went above and beyond for us because they knew this case was important. We want to thank them. With regard to the court staff, Judge Mazie and his staff, I want to thank them for their courtesies. And I want to thank them for all that they did in their professionalism. And this is a difficult case, and they handled it with aplomb. So, I'm going to turn it over to our partners, but just to clarify regarding the plea of guilt, the defendant has pled guilty to 3 counts of murder in the first degree pertaining to the murders of Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. And all of those 3 individuals were killed within 18 months between July of 2009 and September of 2010. That enabled us, the proximity of those murders enabled us to charge those 3 murder 1 counts. In addition to the sentences of that is life without the possibility of parole. With regard to the other 4 victims, they pled guilty to 4 counts of murder in the second degree. That's Sandra Castilla, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Valerie Mack, and Jessica Taylor. Those sentences, 25 to life to run consecutive to each other and to the murder 1 charges. This defendant has additionally agreed to accept responsibility for the murder of Karen Vergata. And again, the sentence will be 25 years to life without the possibility of parole on the first 3 and 25 to life on the last 4, all of which is going to run consecutive. So we have 3 life without parole sentences and 4 25 to life sentences, all to run consecutive. So, with that, I'm going to turn it over to our law enforcement partners. So I'm just going to leave with this. This case closes and another one opens. There are still, bodies on that beach. There are still bodies in Suffolk County. There's no rest for the weary. We are going to continue to work with our partners and to try to obtain closure for as many families as we can. Thank you very much. Catalina.
Thank you, District Attorney Tierney. The calm, serene, almost grandfatherly image that Rex Heuermann portrayed since his arrest was a lie. And quite frankly, an insult to both law enforcement, but more importantly, the families that had to endure that during every court appearance over the last 2.5 years. Today, he was exposed for exactly what he is, a sadistic, soulless, murderous monster. And thankfully, everybody today got to see that. I want to thank all of the members of law enforcement who were a part of this. As long a list as Ray, but most importantly, I want to thank the Suffolk County Police Department, both past and present. We have many retirees who came out here, participated in this case because, like Ray said, they cared, and this was a part of them for a long time. All of our law enforcement partners, everybody who was involved in this task force really did, really an amazing, amazing job. So thank you to everybody who was involved in this. And to the families, no one can ever replace the lives that were taken from all of you, and way too often they were way too young. But we hope that this brings some measure of solace to you. Thank you. Thank you for all your cooperation.
Next, we'll hear from Sheriff Toulon.
I want to thank the district attorney and this entire task force for the hard work that they've done over the last 2.5 years. Today's plea delivers a measure of justice to families who have waited decades for answers after unimaginable loss. While nothing can bring the loved ones back, I am proud we were able to hold Rex Heuermann accountable. Again, thanking the DA and the police commission and all the men and women who worked tirelessly. I also want to thank my staff, to uproot an entire jail security system to accommodate an individual of this magnitude over the last 2.5 years. Our staff has done a phenomenal job in our Riverhead facility where he's been housed, and also the staff that has been assigned to our anti-trafficking initiative. And since his arrest in 2023, my priority has been ensuring that he was safely housed in our correctional facilities because justice needed to be served in the courts and not in our jails. This responsibility is one for me and my officers who have taken very seriously. And I spent my entire career in corrections overseeing some of the most notorious individuals, and what has been the most alarming is how ordinary Heuermann has been. It's a chilling reminder that those capable of horrific acts can often go unnoticed. And another reminder of how much great investigative work has been done to finally apprehend and have a plea today. Most importantly, today is about the victims and their families. You have endured profound loss and years without answers. We hope this guilty plea brings all of you some peace and closure. Our thoughts remain with you and your loved ones today and always. Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Special Agent in charge of the FBI, Rafa.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Michael Rada, the Special Agent in charge of FBI New York Field Office Criminal Division. I'm proud to stand alongside Suffolk County Police Department Commissioner Kevin Catalina, Suffolk County District Attorney Tierney, Suffolk County Sheriff Toulon, to announce the plea of Rex Heuermann, the Gilgo Beach serial killer. Today's announcement highlights the importance of partnerships and perseverance. For decades, the families of these women have been left searching for answers and waiting for justice. This ends today because these agencies before you never gave up. The detectives, the troopers, the agents tirelessly chased every lead and left no stone unturned. In 2011, FBI New York began collaborating with the Suffolk County Police Department to find out who was responsible for these cold-blooded murders. Our office leveraged many resources, some of which have been described already, over the years to include our CAST, our cellular analysis survey teams, behavior analysis teams, evidence response teams, the surveillance groups, forensic and document lab teams at Quantico, and investigative genealogy tools to identify some of Heuermann's victims and help Suffolk County Police piece this puzzle together. The close coordination across every agency ensured that a monster lurking in our community was held accountable for his heinous crimes. While we'll never be able to fill the hole in the lives of the victims' loved ones, I hope that today brings a small sense of closure. Once again, I'd like to thank our state and local partners for their unwavering determination and investigative grit, and that includes the retired agents, detectives, and troopers that are here today. To see them sitting in that courtroom today in the back of that room was really awe-inspiring. To see their commitment to justice doesn't end when they hand in their badge and gun when they retire. Finally, thank you to the agents and analysts of FBI New York Long Island Safe Streets Task Force, the Special Operations Group, our CAST folks, Investigative Genealogy Program folks, and I'd really like to thank DA Tierney and your office for what you did and the resolve that you showed in this case. Just tremendous. Thank you all.
So, Zach, Rafa has just been appointed from New Jersey to head the New York office, and we thank him for coming today, and we're really looking forward to continuing our great relationship with the FBI and our federal partners. Last but not least, we're going to hear from the state troopers and Chris Casal. Chris Casal was with us. Then he went to I believe Albany or New York City. He's back with us. We couldn't be happier, but he's going to say a few words.
Thank you, DA Tierney. I'm Major Christopher Casal. I serve as the Troop Commander for the New York State Police, Troop L. Today marks a significant moment for Long Island and for the families who have endured unimaginable loss for many years. The guilty plea of Rex Heuermann represents a measure of accountability in a case that has deeply impacted our communities. While this brings us closer to justice, pain suffered by the victims and their loved ones. This outcome is a result of years of persistent investigative work and strong collaboration among our law enforcement partners who made up the Gilgo Beach Homicide Task Force. And I commend all of them for their dedication and extraordinary work on this case. It reflects an unwavering commitment to our mission to never forget the victims and to continue pursuing justice, regardless of how much time has passed. This case not only underscores the importance of coordination across agencies, but the role of advancements in forensic science, technology, and intelligence sharing. Today is not a day of celebration, it is a day of reflection, accountability, and remembrance. We honor the victims and stand with their families who have shown extraordinary strength and resilience. The state police and all the agencies you see represented here remain committed to serving our communities and to the continued pursuit of justice for every case that is entrusted to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And now that you're back, we look forward to resuming our great relationship with you. Obviously we have a lot of victims' families here. I believe that we are going to, Gloria Allred represents a number of those victims, and I think they asked for Gloria to come forward and make a statement on behalf of many of the victims. So we'll call Ms. Allred.
Thank you. I'm Attorney Gloria Allred, and I represent a number of the family members who suffered the terrible fate of the tragedy that was inflicted on their loved one. Today, Rex Heuermann, who thought he had the perfect blueprint and plan for serial murder, pled guilty to the murder of 8 young women. Some of these murder victims were young mothers just trying to earn a little extra money to support their children, because many did not have funds to go to college or get a decent job that would help them to provide adequate support for their children. They turned to sex work in order to help their families. It wasn't what they wanted to do, but it was what they felt forced to do because they had no meaningful alternatives. Some wanted to help their parents, their grandparents, and their loved ones. Some just wanted to survive in this difficult and challenging world. Little did they know that the defendant, Rex Heuermann, did not care about their hopes and dreams, or that they had families and friends who loved them. He appeared to care only for himself and executing what he thought was his perfect blueprint for murder. The evidence gathered and articulated in the prosecutor's response to the defendant's bail application demonstrated that the defendant had a, quote, planning document, end quote, utilized by Heuermann to methodically blueprint and plan out his kills. And those are quotes from the bail application. He also believed he had a perfect plan to avoid collection of evidence against him and to evade capture by law enforcement. However, what he had thought was his perfect blueprint for serial murder did not take into account the courage and the persistence of the murder victims' family members who refused to give up until the murderer of their loved ones was found, convicted, and sent to prison for the rest of his life without the possibility of parole. Many of the murder victims' family members became the voices of their loved ones, crying out for them not to be ignored and forgotten, and demanding answers and justice for them. Many of those family members whom I represent are here today. It was bittersweet for them to be in court and hear the defendant plead guilty to the murder of their loved one and the manner of their death. But the truth was important to them, and they heard it today. Last week, they were faced with a difficult question. Did they agree with the Suffolk County District Attorney's decision to agree to accept the defendant's plea of guilty in lieu of trial? Or would they have preferred that a trial take place so that they could hear all of the evidence that the prosecutor would seek to admit against the defendant? In a few moments, you will hear their answers to that question. And I will ask them to come up to the microphone, or if they would prefer to stay where they are, they can answer from there. In no particular order. Family members of Megan Waterman, please come forward and state your name and relationship to Megan Waterman. Elizabeth Meserve is her aunt. A little louder, please, Elizabeth. Or can you come up here? Thank you.
My name is Elizabeth Meserve. I'm Megan Waterman's aunt, and I helped to raise her daughter. And on behalf of Megan, we definitely accept the plea.
Thank you. And also, we have with us Megan's daughter, Liliana Waterman. Oh, okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. Here.
My name is Liliana Waterman. I am the daughter of Megan Waterman, and on behalf of her and my aunt and all of our family back home, we do accept, and we are very, very thankful for everything that they've done for us.
Thank you. Family members of Melissa Bartholomew, please come forward and state your name and relationship to Melissa Bartholomew. Lynn Bartholomew, mother? No? Okay. Amanda Funderburg, sister?
I'm Elizabeth Vakil. I'm Jessica Taylor's mother. And I am glad that this is over as far as him pleading guilty. It took a big chunk of stress off of me and my family.
Thank you. And you accepted the plea?
Oh, yes, I accept the plea wholeheartedly.
Thank you so much. And then we have Jasmine Robinson, who is a cousin of Jessica Taylor, victim Jessica Taylor. You okay? Family members of Maureen Brainerd Barnes, please come forward and state your name and relationship to Maureen Brainerd Barnes. Missy Khan, sister. Nicolette Brainerd Barnes, daughter. Dylan Haggett, son. This is Nicolette.
I am Nicolette Brainerd Barnes, the daughter of Maureen Brainerd Barnes, and on behalf of my mother, I accept this plea.
Dylan Haggett.
I am Dylan Haggett, the son of Maureen Brainerd Barnes, and I accept the plea.
Thank you. Okay. So I think we have everyone that I represent. If there's anyone I don't represent who would like to say something, feel free to come forward. Okay. The defendant's plan to get away with the murders he committed was also unsuccessful. Okay, good. Thank you so much. Okay, I could actually just use this. Thank you. Somebody else. Oh, good. Just say your name, please.
I'm Diane Doherty, and I'm the mother of Karen's sons, Eric and Gary. And I just want to say I'm thankful that we came to a conclusion that brought peace to everybody. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Yes, you will. Okay, good. Thank you. The defendant's plan to get away with the murders he committed was also unsuccessful because many law enforcement officers who participated in this massive investigation were so dedicated. We would like to thank each and every one of you who contributed to bringing the defendant to justice. We deeply appreciate you and your dedication to finding, testing, and preserving evidence for this case. The result today would never have been achieved without your hard work and sacrifice. Even if we cannot meet and thank each one of you in person, please know that your efforts on behalf of the families, loved ones, are respected and appreciated. We look forward to thanking as many of you as possible after the time of the sentencing in June. The journey to justice has been painful for each family member who I. In conclusion, Melissa Kahn, also known as Missy, would like to share her feelings about this day and the almost 2 decades in which she has sought justice for her sister, Maureen Brainerd Barnes. Missy.
I just want, can I have my family behind me?
Of course you can,
Perfect.
sure.
Thank you.
Would you like to use this? Or this?
Let's see.
Yeah, okay.
Hello. Okay. Hi, my name's Melissa Can. Everybody calls me Missy, and I'm the sister of Maureen Brainerd Barnes, and this is my family, well, some of it. First, I want to begin by thanking the district attorney, His office, the detectives, the FBI, the New York State Police, and the entire task force. For years, they never stopped. They carried this case with determination and heart, and our family will forever be grateful. We are forever thankful for the work that led us here. Finally, a sense of relief. The guilty plea brings solace, and I like to thank everyone who had a part in that fight for justice. Thank you to our lawyer, Gloria Allred. I also would like to thank the media for continuing to keep this case in the public eye. Today is not about the person responsible. Today is about the women's lives who were stolen. It is about their voices, their future, and their families, the love that still surrounds them. They are the reason why we are here. 19 years, I lived in the space between heartbreak and hope. Throughout these years, I searched for answer, for truth, for justice. There were moments when the weight felt unbearable, but I never gave up. Maureen was never forgotten, not for a single moment. From the day she went missing until today, she has been carried in every breath, every memory, every fight for answers. This has been a long journey of hope that one day we would stand here and say her name with justice beside it. Today, that long, painful journey brings us to this moment. Our mission, our promise to Maureen is finally met with accountability. For Melissa's, Megan's, Amber's, Jessica's, Valerie's, Sandra's, and Karen's family, I stand with you in deep love and understanding. No one should ever have to walk this path, yet here we all are, connected by loss, by strength, and the unbreakable bond of our loved ones. The bond some of us has created has been one that is unique in a sense that it did not form from a previous friendship or blood. It was created by trying to pick up the pieces of our world that had shattered in tragedy. And I am so grateful for us. To every family out there still searching, still waiting, still holding on, please do not give up hope. Even when it feels impossible, even when the years pass and the silence grow heavy, keep going. Your loved ones matter. They are not forgotten, and one day answers can come. Finally, to Maureen, the promise I made to you so long ago was simple. Sorry. I would never stop searching for justice for you. Through every year, every setback, every unanswered question, I carried you with me, and I kept that promise. And today, it has been done. Justice has finally found its way to you. Your voice was never silenced, your story never forgotten, and your life will always be more than the tragedy that took you. This moment is not the end, but a reminder that love endures, truth prevails, and hope never fades, because even in the darkest moments, justice will find its way. Thank you.
The victims will not be answering questions. I call them the victims because they are also victims, even though they are family of murder victims. I can take one question. And if there are none, yes, sir. Could you speak up a little, please?
So after today's proceeding, the defense attorney, Michael Brown, when asked, why did he accept the plea deal all of a sudden, why did he want to go through? Because he kept saying all the while, last year, innocent, why now? Why all of a sudden? And his answer was, quote, he certainly wanted to save the families of the victims the ordeal that was going to trial. Just wanted to hear what the victims' families thought of that sentence as far as answer.
Not much.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw something on Facebook today that the New York Post is still calling our girls sex workers. Stop it.
I don't have a comment on anything he says. Perhaps the district attorney does.
Yeah, no, I think, yeah. So thank you, Ms. Allred. Thank you, Missy. Thanks to the victims. Does anybody have any questions? Yes. Well, I think traditionally a change of plea is when, they plead guilty to every single count in the indictment. In this sense, we are going to be dismissing 3 charges. So that is a plea deal. Obviously, he's getting the maximum under the sentence. So how you categorize that, I would leave it to everyone. Yes.
It seems like one of the only cases that's pretty much a solid foundation talk, but except for this age ago, seems you solved all the other cases. So where does that go now? Do you have any sense of
So I know, Mary, you're going to get sick of hearing this because I say it every time. Doesn't matter what I think, it matters what I can prove. You've heard that before, right, Mary? I think that, first thing we need to, there's a number of things we can do, but a huge step in moving that case forward would be to finally identify that individual. We're continuing to work with that IGG. And hopefully that we can do that, but we'll continue to work that case. We'll continue to work all the other, unfortunately, many cases in Suffolk County. So.
So does that lead you to believe that he may have been involved with me?
Again, doesn't matter what I believe, it matters what I can prove. So, I'll leave the belief and the conjecture up to whoever wants to do that. I'm going to, continue to do what we do, speak through our indictments, and, we are where we are. But we're going to continue to work forward, and so gratifying to be able to provide closure for these families, hopefully for that individual and his family and the people who cared about him. We want that same closure. Yes. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Oh, it most certainly is case law. Do you work for the defense? It is. We prevailed in the Fry hearing. It happens all the time. Not every time that you make law in New York State does the case result in a trial. So, that is the existing law since that decision. Like we knew it would. Nuclear DNA from hair samples has moved forward. We're on even stronger footing than we were at the time of the hearing. So we feel great about it, and we're happy. And we're going to use that science. We're going to defend that science, and let's do it. We feel great about it because the science is most definitely on our side. Yeah, I think we wanted to synopsize, so we wanted to name the victims, right? Because it's about them. We wanted, and we're talking, starting in 1993, ending in September of 2010, we have these 8 women, right? And all of the years in between. So I think it provided a context of this defendant and what he's done and what he pled guilty to. So it was important for us to do it in that way. And then with regard to the allocution, every jurisdiction, there are elements for murder or what have you. Those elements are slightly different. And, but in every jurisdiction, you have to prove each and every element of the crime charged against the defendant. So for instance, when you ask the defendant how old he is, that's an element. He has to be above the age of 18. So, it's really the allocution is really guided by the elements of the crime, and, it has to be satisfactory to the judge. So that's just the way we decided to do it. I mean, I think that's just the way we do it in New York. I mean, that's like a standard plea, so he had, admitted responsibility, allocated to it. So that's that. We still have the sentencing, so we'll hear more on, from that. Yeah, we're not, we're not going to have individual investigators speak. Again, we want to thank Trooper or Investigator Atai for the great work she did in that regard, and very emblematic of all the great work that was done in this case.
Are you still working with other jurisdictions on unsolved murders and any promises made with no further charges being brought against them?
So with regard to the no further charges, that pertains to the 8 murders that were discussed. That's it. So with regard to other investigations, those potential investigations are not covered by the plea in this case. So we'll just have to see what happens with, see how that unfolds. But the plea and the coverage pertains to the 8 women that we were discussed in court today. That's it. Yes. Again, what we do is, when somebody wants information, we give it to them, and we share that information all the time. We've been sharing information. We'll continue to share that information. I think when people talk about, now he's going to, after sentencing, he'll go into CODIS. I said this before, but I want to make clear, we have the ability as investigators to provide evidence in our case on a case-by-case basis. So in other words, if there's a case in a state and they want specific information about one of our cases, we could share it, and we've done that. Yeah, sure. Again, I think that, the FBI does such phenomenal work, but then you have, the real work that the FBI does, and then, the work you see on TV. So, one of the many great units that the FBI has is this behavioral analysis unit. And that is, that unit at one of its core missions is like a clinical role. In other words, they're going to interview the defendant, gain insight into his motivations, and background, as sort of an academic and scientific exercise. So that's what that's about. They're a clinical, those are clinical interviews. Those aren't investigative interviews. I believe that they're going to limit that to just the 4 corners of what he pled guilty to, and try to gain insight, so they could gain insight and knowledge going forward on new cases. And that's kind of what the FBI does. Yeah, I believe it was, it was a Ram Charger owned by him, and it was Sandra Castilla. No. I was a federal prosecutor, and as a federal prosecutor, you have a lot more, I would say, sway with the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and you could sort of dictate, those things. In the state, the state Department of Corrections does their thing. And so not only is there nothing in there, I don't believe I would really be able to do anything. Obviously, so that'll be a function of the Department of Corrections, but no. Yeah, I mean, I think with regard to this, again, he's not serving less time. So, as far as that, it's pretty much the best we could do. But, I think every single case you have, there's these discussions, and, talking talking about pleas as a prosecutor, that's third rail stuff because defendants have a presumption of innocence. They have a right to trial. So imagine if every time in one of my cases in my office, I said, "Oh, Smith, yeah, he's going to plead guilty. He knows he did it." You know, that's third rail stuff. That's unethical behavior. So we don't talk about pleas, you know, because it would be unethical as prosecutors because we're impeding upon that presumption of innocence. So we don't do that, number one. Number two, we don't have control over what a particular defendant's going to do. And in every single case, there's talk of pleas. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe it won't happen. You know, we prepare a case, we go forward, we see what happens. I don't think, until the allocution was completed, I didn't know whether or not this was going to go through. So you wait and see. I think people say, oh, it's going to be a plea. Well, maybe. No, I think I've been doing this for 30 years. And as a young prosecutor, you chase pleas every day. You say, look, maybe we'll get a plea. Maybe we'll get a plea. We'll call. It makes you look desperate. It takes you away from your preparation. So you go forward. And if the defendant decides to plead guilty, go ahead and let him plead guilty. But, it doesn't really factor into our mindset because a lot of times you're absolutely sure that a case is going to plead guilty. It doesn't. Other times, you think it, and just the exact opposite. So you don't know, so you don't waste your time thinking about it. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question for the families. Is there a personal anecdote or a favorite memory that you can share about your loved ones?
So Mr. Allred just said that the families were not taking questions. So perhaps offline you could address that. Yes. I don't really think it's sort of organic. It happens organically. What happens is you sort of go from talking about it and just going forward. And then, at a certain point in time, there was, discussion with regard to, Karen Vergata. And that's done in a proffer setting where the defendant discloses, but you can't use it against them unless they waive that. So, once that happened, we began to think that certainly a plea might occur, but you never know. Yeah, well, normally, say this was a robbery case, right? And there's a maximum of 25 years and the person could get 10 years, right? So you're negotiating, all right, I think we could dispose of this for 12 years or 10 years or 6 years or whatever it is. That's a normal plea. There was no negotiation with regard to numbers. So it was basically we'll continue to work this case. If it comes a time when this defendant, and it's the defendant's decision, when this defendant wants to plead guilty, we'll go ahead and take it. But we're not discussing, we'll give him this or we'll give him that. So there really wasn't all those discussions. And I can tell you that, the reason why this case pled guilty was because it was the defendant's decision to do so. The defendant wanted to plead guilty. If the defendant didn't want to plead guilty, the defense would have taken the case to trial and, we would have, followed along. But it was, at a certain point in time, it was the defendant's decision to say, I'm pleading guilty. No. Well, I mean, if you look at, I always talk about this, Mary, and we've talked about this, right? And I like to kid you, right? When you say, well, we're talking about a case in this jurisdiction, and you ask me, and I'll say, what does the bail letter say? And you say, well, your jurisdiction is the only jurisdiction that does bail letters, right? So we've provided a tremendous amount of evidence, and the evidence in this case is primarily almost, the lion's share of the evidence was the phone evidence, the financial records, the information with regard to the witness statement with regard to Amber Costello the night before, the Chevy Avalanche, the DNA. I think I said cellular phone analysis, and that's and of course the planning document and the mementos that were found. That's the case. I think there's a tremendous interest in this case, but when you get down to it, the actual commission of the crime, there were 2 witnesses to the commission of all of those crimes. And unfortunately, each time the other witness is no longer with us. So they're just certain, we can't answer every single question because there are no eyewitness to these cases. I felt great. I mean, and the reason why I felt great was because I knew it would provide closure to the families. This is a tough forum for victims. The protections extend to the defendant, and it's a process that's tough on victims. So to go through an extensive trial would have been difficult for the family. So we're glad that we were able to spare the families of that, and that's what we're most happy with. So again, look at this deal, and you tell me what we offered and what we didn't offer, and I'll let you decide. I know what I think. Again, it very seldom matters what I think. So if we gave him a deal, then we gave him a deal.
Take us back to the renewed effort to find this person, the task force. Your idea, I think, the police department commissioner at the time had an idea to have fresh eyes on this as well. How did that all come about, and then very quickly lead to these leads?
Well, so when I ran for office, and when I spoke with the victims' families before I took office, I discussed this task force. And I said, if you look at Suffolk County, the history of this case, every time there's a new person on the case, prior to me getting there, you'll see they go out to Gilgo Beach, and all you guys follow, and they're walking along the beach looking for clues, presumably. I don't know what the heck they're doing. But it's a great media event, and it's a great opportunity to talk about all the great work they're doing and how close they are to catching someone. We did the exact opposite. When we came in, we wanted the one person who mattered, the murderer, to think it's business as usual. We didn't say, hey, it's a slow day. Let's toss Gilgo in the media pool, to sort of get some clicks. We purposely wanted everyone, especially the individual who committed these crimes, to go to sleep. Because when we wanted to work our case, develop our case, and when we proved it, right, when we got that grand jury indictment, we wanted to simultaneously arrest him and execute a whole bunch of warrants. And if he was lulled to sleep, we would get additional evidence. And that's precisely what happened. So I am very proud for the work that we and the other members of the task force did, because how we envisioned it happening, that's what happened. Yes. I'm sorry, I cut you off. I apologize for that. Yeah, I anticipated your question. There's I don't think there was one. The phone evidence, financial evidence, the mementos, the planning document, and the DNA evidence, right, off of those hairs. All of it is layered. And so when you take it all together, really, really significant. And I think the key for us was, when initially we had, the avalanche. Well, that's great. Let's get more. We had mitochondrial DNA. That's great. Let's get more. We had cellular data. Let's get financial records to link that in. So more. You have too much evidence. Too much evidence is not enough evidence. We realized this was a significant case. These families waited years. So we were going to make sure that when we brought this case to court, it was going to be a very strong, powerful case. And I can tell you, due to the work of these great agencies and these great people, to my left primarily, some to my right, we built a great case. And the reason why we built such a great case is because at no time did we ever say, well, that's enough. We're good. Keep on going. Sure, I'm sorry. Well, I'm talking about the case against Rex Heuermann and that indictment, right, in which he pled guilty to the murders of every single woman on that indictment, plus an eighth woman. That case closes. But any case involving an unsolved homicide in Suffolk County, those cases remain open. That's not the way it works. We don't presume that he did or didn't do any more cases. We go to each case like we did with each of these women. We develop the evidence from those cases. We see where it leads us, and that's what we do. But a lot of other people in Suffolk County said, we think it's this person. We don't think anything. We go to the crime scene. We start the crime scene. We develop the evidence, and we see where it leads us. That's it. When I'm ready to charge somebody, I will. But I'm not going to sit here and say this murder, we think it's one or two of these people, maybe a third. We don't speculate. We work until we get the evidence to speak through an indictment. Sorry, I don't mean to, but I think that that's the way you do cases, and that's the way we do cases. Yeah. Yeah. So while we were doing this case, right, Nassau was working on the case involving Tanya Jackson, and they've brought an indictment, right? And prior to that, we brought our indictment, and Nassau gave us the space to work. We appreciate that. Now Nassau has brought their indictment. We're going to give them the space to work. So we'll leave it at that. I'm sorry? We had evidence linking him to the commission of this case. Whether we would have indicted it, I'm not sure. Certainly once he accepted responsibility for it, that concluded our investigation. But so we took the win and went with it. Okay, so I think we got to call this because I think the families have travel plans, but if you'd like, we could, offline, I could continue answering questions. Thank you. Sure.
I just want to thank District Attorney Ray Tierney because we had a question this morning from one of the victims. Since there is no trial, will they be able to ask questions about the evidence? And the District Attorney agreed. So we appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Excuse me.
All righty. Well, there we have it. A little light on information, but I think we learned a few things. Very glad to hear he's already indicted in another county. I think it's very clear that there's plenty of investigation continuing into Heuermann. That was very sweet to see some of the families and hear from them Um, I can't imagine what they've been going through for such a long time now, considering how far back these go. 1993 was the first one that he pled guilty to today. So that one's in the books. Heuermann's going away forever. That prosecutor was not going to speculate about anything else, though, was he? That was interesting. That's all right, though, because like we talk about on True Crime Squad all the time, we want things done the right way. We want them done the legal way, the way that will make everything stick and make, make convictions hold up. And we do want that in every case. And it does mean protecting the rights of every defendant, even Rex Heuermann, which is a little tough to take sometimes, I think. But the system's either got to work for everybody or nobody. You know what I mean? And we're not in an everybody place yet. But it is the goal that, if even a heinous serial killer like Rex Heuermann can get a fair shake with the criminal justice system, then that's how it ought to be. That's how it's set up to be. So I do appreciate that a lot. Thanks so much for hanging in here with me today. I know this has been kind of a weird day where we didn't get to actually watch the hearing, but I still think for me it was very powerful to hear from the families, to hear from the DA, from Gloria Allred. God, she's such a badass. Very, very important moment in the true crime world, I think. We'll be back over on our main page, True Crime Squad, tonight at 6 p.m. Mountain for case updates. So come follow us over there. And as always, thank you so much for being here. And you know it. This has been True Crime Squad Trials.